Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our new wheat crop webinar. Please note that all attendees are on mute, but you can send some question on the right on the question tab, and we will answer at the end of the webinar to all your questions during a Q&A session. And if needed, we could also send to you personally some answer if we don't answer at the end of this webinar. And of course, all the presentation will be sent after the webinar. So today we're going to see the new wheat crop 2021 with first Claude Gagnol with a worldwide and European wheat market review. Claude is a Cereal Identity Preserved Organization Director at Limagrain Ingredient. And then we will see the wheat flour quality for this year with Lucille Dubost, who is Innovation Project Manager. I leave the floor to Claude.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure for me to share this 2021 market review. So many things have happened and are to be happen as well, are to happen. So it's very important to spend some time to look at the most critical criteria to decide or not to decide to buy the raw material and to process it afterward. The first thing is the big trend that we are under the pressure, I would say, because we have a strong weather market with a lot of volatility. So you have seen that since, I would say, early this year, because on the world scale, we have observed a first important drought in Brazil. And it has started with the corn crop. First, this corn crop was expected late because of late seeding. And afterward, the corn crop has suffered a huge lack of water. So at the end, we have observed more or less 20-25 million tons corn less than predicted. So it has put the market under pressure quantity-wise. And in the meantime, the Chinese with the purchase of a huge quantity of corn and soya from states and from Brazil. So the market started to be very, I would say, volatile and excited because of these two information. But in the meantime, this is for the crop 2021. The last crop that is harvested on 21 is the corn from South Hemisphere, because it's important to consider what is happening on the North Hemisphere and South one, because it's a different time to collect the crop, and it is very important to follow that. So in the North Hemisphere, for the crop 2021, once again, we have observed a serious heat of wave in North US and Canada. So as a consequence, we have lost a lot of quantity of spring wheat, canola, corn, and lentils. So these four raw material have been very much affected by the yield, and of course, we have a lack of raw material from this important farming area. In the meantime, we were looking at the European crop. It was on the good way, I would say, very promising, except that the Russian territory have observed as well some drought, which have affected the final yield of the wheat in the fields. So Russia has lost some significant quantity of wheat in regards with the expectation. So, but usually, regarding the European situation, I would say that so far so good in terms of volume, and we are going to see that in details. So, having said that, when we look at this graph of price for the wheat and the corn, we can observe that from April and May 21, the corn has becoming the market driver. Usually it is the wheat, and now it is the corn until the new crop of wheat to arrive, meaning July, August. So you can see that the corn price has reached some heights. It was the same for the wheat to less extent, but the situation was very critical for the corn. and this curve is reflecting the situation, which is very tense between June and October. And at the moment, there is almost nothing available in terms of crop, corn from the last crop, from crop 21. So we are looking at the new crop to arrive the soonest possible. So now the wheat is coming back as a driver since the new crop 21, and the wheat now is more expensive than the corn, and there are more or less 30 euro difference. This is something that we are going to see in more details. So concerning those market parameters, it is important to consider three fundamentals. One, concerning the major criteria. Of course, the acreage for wheat and corn are very important because both crops are suitable for the animal feeding, which is the most important sectors which is using the corn and the wheat on the world scale. The second thing is the ratio stock over the consumption. So, of course, if we want to get some raw material available, it is important to make sure that we have enough quantities to supply the food or the feed demand. And this ratio is reducing for a few months, and it is reaching some very critical level. So we have as well the other crops like the rice, and the rice is the third most important crop over the world, and at the moment it seems to be okay. And then you have the exchange rate between euro and dollar. So this is at the moment very important because it is impacting significantly the Euronext or the Chicago Board exchange market. You have some possible additional parameters. Of course, the weather market, I would say it is a major criteria this year, much more than usual. And there is the winter and the summer weather. The winter, we have to look after what is happening in South America, South Africa, for instance. And in summer, we have to look after what is happening in North Hemisphere, US, Canada, and Europe. You have as well some political instability to look after, and some sanitary crises. Like COVID, for instance, and in the past we were having as well some the Arabic springtime, and which has led to some very serious crises. And last year, as you know, we had to address the COVID problem. So we have seen that it has impacted significantly the market and the consumption. And it is still the case. Of course, the situation is resuming. We are going to enter in the growth period, but there are still some uncertainty about the next step situation concerning COVID and the global economy. You have some worldwide commodity market, the oil, mineral, but it is very much connected to the consumption as well. But the traders, the speculators, they can play between the different commodities. And we have what we name the underestimate data. So meaning that there are some hidden data, especially from China. And I repeat again that the Chinese buyers have played a very important game last year, at least this year, the beginning of this year, concerning the price of the corn and the price of the soya. So it is very important to follow up the situation in China. And you know, for instance, that at the time, there is something which is not at all connected with the raw material. It is pertaining to some real estate company, which are going almost in bankruptcy. And the market is very worried about this situation, which could lead maybe a financial crisis at the end. So, and leading to a reduction of consumption in China. So it's important to consider that as well. So as you can see, we have many different parameters, but first, the weather market is at the the most critical criteria at the moment, and the Chinese potential of purchase. So then you have another criteria that you have to look after very carefully, is the stock, the carryover. The carryover, and from one crop to the other one. And the carryover is mostly concerning the export country. So when the carryover is low, so this is meaning that there is low volume to export and to trade with. And of course, when there is low volume, the speculation is there, and the demand could be higher than the availability. And at the moment, the carryover, for instance, for the corn is extremely low, and for the wheat it's better, but not so good as well. So we have to look at this criteria very carefully as well. So concerning the wheat on the worldwide scale, from the crop 21, so meaning that this is the wheat that we have been harvested in Canada, US, Europe, Russia, and so on, so North Hemisphere. So this situation is, I would say, more or less normal. So we reach 750 million tons of wheat, which is more or less 10 million tons plus compared to last year. It's a good thing. Not enough to please the market, because the market is growing by 13 million. So at the end, we have some issue concerning the carryover. So, but this year, the market and the demand and the production is almost the same. So we are not improving the ratio stock over consumption. So this is why we have to continue to look after these criteria. So you can see that in the Europe, for instance, the situation was good because we have more or less plus 10% quantity versus last year, which is a good thing. Mostly because of the French situation, which is much better than last year. In Russia, the situation is not as good as last year, because they are losing 10 million tons. So this is just balancing what we gain in Europe and what they lose in Russia. On the States, the situation is more or less normal, and as you can see in Canada, they are losing 30% of the volume, which is very critical. Not only for the wheat. Ukraine, we have a very good crop, not only for the wheat. The corn crop is expected at a very high level in Ukraine. Australia, it's okay, and Argentina, it's okay. Kazakhstan, it's I would say more or less okay. So, and concerning China, it's just an indicative figures, because exact data are not so much available, as I already said. It's stable compared to last year. So now let's have a look to the European situation. So as I already said, we are in a situation that we have more quantity than last year, hopefully, plus 8.5%, so meaning 8.6 million tons. But we have as well an increase of the domestic use for the common wheat, meaning this is the soft wheat mostly, at 97 million tons, so it's plus 3.8%. This is due to the human consumption on the rise, plus 0.4%, and animal feeding, plus 8%. Because this year, we have a lot of quantity of discarded wheat, which is going to the animal feeding, and this wheat is sold, at cheaper price than the standard wheat for instance, for milling purpose. At the moment, we observe a negative cash premium by 30 euro feed wheat compared to the food wheat. So it is important. So it is encouraging the use of the wheat for the animal feeding. And of course, this year we can resume with the export. Last year it was difficult because due to the French situation, where we lose a lot of quantity of wheat because of the drought, we could not be in a strong position to export. But this year we can come back to the market, and we have some advantage to come back to the market. So at the moment we can expect an ending stock at 9.3 million tons versus 7.8 last year, which is almost 20% plus, which this is a good thing because this ending stock, we need to rebuild up the ending stock. Just to have a look to the different players in Europe. So we have different origin of information, but generally speaking, we can say that we expect more or less 35 million tons from France, which is normal. Germany, 21 million tons. It is a little less than what we were expecting. Is as well in France. We were expecting in France 38 million tons, but due to the last situation with the overraining situation and so on, the final crop was less than expected. Poland, it's okay. Romania, it's okay. Spain, it's good. Bulgaria, it's good. Hungary, it's good. Once again, Czech Republic, it's okay. Denmark, it's okay. Lithuania, it's okay. So you can see that every country are on the green light in Europe. So for the barley and the durum wheat, the situation seems to be more or less okay, maybe less for the barley. And concerning the durum wheat, we have a huge lack of durum wheat on the world scale. This is mainly due to the situation in Canada. So the price of the durum wheat has almost doubled from last year. So in France, the crop is not so bad, not very good, but not so bad. But the problem is due to the Canadian situation. Concerning the acreage for the crop 21 versus 20, so you can see that the soft wheat, what we name the blé tendre in France, it is mainly for purpose milling. Almost 100% of the French territory has increased the acreage for the soft wheat. For the durum wheat, it was as well the case, and but we lost some acreage for the barley and for the corn. So having a in-depth look at the French situation. So I already said that this year it's much better than last year, and we are coming back to a normal situation based on the average 5 years crop. So this crop at 35 million tons is good on the volume wise, but the quality is not so good. 30% of the wheat will be discarded because of the bulk density of the wheat. This is the way for 100 hectoliters. It's as you know, it's a criteria which is in the specification to trade the wheat. So the specification is minimum 76 kilograms per hectoliter. And this year we have only in France 30% of the wheat which are above 76 kilogram per hectoliter. So meaning that we have to use some wheat which are below 76, and most of the crop has been harvested from 74 up to 80. So a lot of quantity of wheat are between 74 and 76 kg per hectoliter. The domestic use is on the rise as well, plus 5%, and the export, as I already said, French territory is an important exporter. So this year we are in better position to export, provided we are not suffering too much competition, especially toward the main market, the French market, like Algeria, for instance, which is under the pressure of the Russian offer. So the ending stock are resuming at a better level, which is a good thing. Concerning the price, very difficult to predict anything. At the moment, we have the volume of wheat in Europe, but Euronext is not expressing this situation, is not reflecting this situation, because the prices are still on the high side, because it's due mainly to the fact that we have a lot of quantity of wheat, but not a lot of quantity of right quality wheat is available. And the market for Euronext is based on the trade, and the trade is made according to the specification with this criteria, the specific way at 76 kilograms per hectoliter. So meaning that the right quality wheat available is not so important as we could expect. So it is creating some tension on the market, but generally speaking, the market at the moment is is looking for the right direction, up or down. We don't know, and there is a lot of volatility. If we just have a look to yesterday's situation, the wheat has grown. The price wheat has grown by €5 in only one day yesterday, and the 2 days before, the wheat lost more or less €4 or €5. So it's a very up and down situation, and very difficult to predict anything for the next coming week. We could expect some, I would say, maybe price drop when the corn crop is done, and when we have a better appreciation of the corn crop volume. Because as I said, we have to look after the situation, the wheat and the corn at the same time, because you can substitute the wheat by the corn or the corn by the wheat for the animal feeding. So the market can play with that. And if the corn crop is confirming a very good level, as it is expected, we could have some pressure of the corn on the price of the wheat. So, but this is something to confirm. So, as a synthesis for the crop 21, concerning the proven factors and the bullish factors, we can say that we have a strong heat wave in Canada and US, which is leading to some shortage of volume. We have the drought in Russia and poor quality wheat for the milling wheat in Europe. 30% of the wheat is not available for the milling purpose, and 30% of the wheat is on the good specification, over 76 kg per hectoliter, and you have in between more or less 40% of the wheat, which is intermediary quality of wheat, from which we don't know the behavior at the milling step. So at the moment, we don't know exactly what is the milling yield we can expect from this quality wheat, because normally the specific way is impacting the milling yield. So lower is a specific way, lower is a milling yield. So, but we are checking that, and in any case, we need to look at the possibility to save the maximum quantity of milling wheat from this gap between 74 and 76 kilogram per hectoliter. So there are some strong volume available for the animal feeding in terms of wheat, which is impacting the sales of the bran, because the byproduct we generate from the milling step, it's mainly bran for the animal feeding, and this market is at the moment under pressure. The value of the bran are very, very low at the moment, because the animal feeding company, they can use some discarded wheat to replace the bran, and the bran is the discarded wheat is sold at 30-40 euro less than the food grade wheat. So it's very important, and we are still looking at this sustained demand from China, which is, I would say, normally integrated in the Euronext and the Chicago Board Exchange, because we know that the Chinese, they are in the market, but we never know at which level. Concerning the bearish factors, so we have a good harvest in Europe and Ukraine for the wheat, but not only for the wheat, we have a good crop expected for the corn. So in Europe, at least, we are not missing raw material. The factors to watch, the bullish factors, so Russian logistical difficulties to transport the wheat to export to the export area. Global consumption recovery, especially for the gasoline and so on. So because it can play on the stock market, and this global consumption is as well on the way, because after COVID period, and everywhere we have more demand in the world to feed the cattle, for instance, especially in China, because they cut the cattle, the pork, the pig cattle, 2 years ago, and now they are rebuilding up the cattle, the herd cattle. So it's important. They need raw material. But we have a global resuming situation over the world because after the COVID period. So there are as well the international logistic costs, which are on the very high level. Just to give you an example, if you want to book containers to ship the goods from China to Europe, for instance, at the moment, usually it was $2,000 per containers. Now it's multiplied by 7, which is impacting the global logistic cost on the world scale. So this year, this is the criteria that could affect the exportation as well. And the bearish factors, we still have this uncertainty about the global pandemic. We may have as well some governmental policy in North Africa countries which could change, for instance, the specification of the raw material, and it can help or it cannot help the situation to export. We have as well the Russian, which is putting pressure on the Algerian market, which is a very important market for France. But we are losing some market share in that market, and because this market is more open to any kind of supplier, especially the Russian, they make some lobby. We have this global possible full recovery, but not yet confirmed, and good harvest forecast for the southern hemisphere. But at the moment, we have some prediction from South America and from Australia as acreage for the next crop, for instance, for the corn, but as well for the wheat, which are on the good level, but it's still at the seeding step. So a lot of way to run before getting the last update information. Concerning the wheat flour costing and the way we are building up the wheat flour cost, you have to bear in mind that it's important to consider the quality of the wheat you are going to use, of course. So you need some suitable wheat for the bread making and dedicated to the milling process. I already talked about the difficult situation we are facing this year, at least in France and generally speaking in Europe, concerning the specific way. You have as well some specific qualification in terms of wheat variety for milling purpose, VRM. So it's a recommended wheat variety from the French Association, French Milling Association. You have the wheat improvers to improve the quality of the blend of the wheat to make the right quality flour. And this is high protein content wheat. You have as well some specific specification where you look for specific criteria. This is, we have different specifications in that respect, which are available on the French territory, CRC, La Graine au Pain from Limagrain, for instance, baby food, organic, and so on. And now more we go, more we have typical specification. Every players are looking for to address the different societal expectation concerning the environmental care, concerning the added value share, concerning the nutrition and the low pesticide residues. So there is a lot of change in the market at the moment, and more demanding market for some environmental criteria and nutritional criteria. So of course, more exigent you are, more expensive is the raw material, because we need to put in place the right organization and the right motivation for the farmer to change their practices and to make sure that we have the right raw material available. And what is for sure is that when you enter in such a way, you have to anticipate the need, because you cannot find in one click in the market such a specific raw material specification. So I do recommend to anticipate your need and to plan it with your supplier and to work in a close relationship with your supplier. Concerning the cost model for the wheat flour, so of course you have the Euronext reference, and you have to consider the cash premium. It could be positive or negative, but this year we have a significant positive cash premium to put on the Euronext price if you want to get the right quality wheat for the milling purpose. So we consider we have to put +5, +10 € on the top of Euronext to get the right wheat quality for the milling purpose. Then we have the variety quality premium. So this is to get some specific wheat variety. It's not due to this year. This is a long-lasting quality existing premium. You have as well the integrated chain. I already talked about that. If you want to organize some and to get a specific raw material quality, you have to organize a dedicated integrated chain in that respect, and you have to pay some premium for that. You have the storage fees, you have the milling yield. Pay attention to this year milling yield due to the specific way of the wheat, and the value of the byproduct. And this year, because the raw material is under pressure for the animal feeding, and there is a lot of discarded wheat for the animal feeding, so we will be having a lot of difficulties to value the byproduct from the milling step. So it will be affecting as well the price of the wheat flour. And the increase of the industrial cost, it's not a news that we have to tell you that we have to address some significant inflation for the salary, for the energy. The electricity power is on the very high side. It has doubled since last year in terms of price wise. The packing as well. You have to be careful with the shortage of the packing, especially when you have to import it from South Asia countries. So, and the price is on the upside. So I'm very sorry to bring you, so I would say bad news, but it is belonging to the business. And for sure, this year we have to deal with a lot of cost increase in the process of the wheat flour. So of course, at Limagrain Ingredients, we will do our best to keep that cost increase under control. But for sure, we have to consider the situation with very carefully. So you can see the different index to give you an idea of the trend for the different raw material or packing and so on. I leave you to have a look to this different index as well for the different mineral, oil, and so on. But for the electricity, for instance, what is the most important reason why the electricity is on the upside is due to the tax, the carbon footprint tax. So the European community has implemented a quota for the carbon, and it's authorization, I would say, to generate carbon when you produce something. And some important sectors, they have to buy some quota to, it's a right to produce carbon when they produce their different product. And there is a market for that, and this market is a very speculative market at the moment because the quota, it's meaning that it's a limited quantity to access, and there is a lot of demand for that. And you can see that the cost of the tax, the level of the tax of CO2 tax, the carbon tax, is extremely nervous at the moment, and it is impacting significantly the electricity cost and the gas as well. So this is the main reason why the electricity and the energy, generally speaking, is on the high side in terms of cost, and the rise is very recent. It just since the beginning of the year, but it's extremely important, and this is the reason why the electricity cost has almost doubled in 1 year time. So, of course, we are at your disposal to share different comments, different questions. I wish you a good luck, I would say, for this year. A lot of courage to address all these kind of difficulties. But once again, it's belonging to the business and the life of the company. And we will do our utmost at Limagrain Ingredients to help the situation and to cooperate with you. Thank you for your attention. And I give the floor to Lucille now to talk about the quality of the wheat flour from the crop 2021. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I will present you some data on the quality wheat and flour from the new harvest. These data refer to the crop in France and are extracted for a part from the information published by France Agrimaire, which is a French public organization. The criteria cited are compared with the results from the year 2020. We have thus observed that the protein level has increased compared to last year. In 2021, 74% of wheat is higher than 11.5% protein against 56% in 2020. This year, the Agber values are lower. 51% of wheat volume are higher than 240 seconds against 95% in 2020. And the specific weights are very low this year in France. Like Claude said before, 32% of wheat harvested are higher than 76 kilograms per hectoliters against 98% in 2020. The specific weight represents the filling of the grain. When it is higher, the milling yields will be better. We have also seen, depending on the region, some issues of mycotoxins. These different issues on the wheat have caused a downgrading of 30% of the crop to animal feed-up. In 2020, 80% of wheat were classified in premium and superior quality. This year, they are representing only 25% of these categories. The two graphs represent the repartition of wheat depending on protein content and specific weight. After some baking tests, we have observed that this year the doughs are really softer. Then we need to reduce hydration by 1 to 3%. We have also noticed that the profile of each variety are consistent. At the end of smoothing, the dough are torn. The variety which are generally extensible are smoother at the end of mixing. It is the case with varieties Oregrain and Apache. This year, the doughs are more elastic with higher tenacity. We have difficulties to extend the breads. We have lower tolerance and volumes than those obtained in 2020. About analytical values, we have noticed a decrease of P out of L and W on alveograph analysis. On farinograph, we have a lack of stability, and these results are correlated with bread making nodes, which give elastic doughs. We can then say that even if the protein content is higher this year, these proteins are not as good as last year. Our recommendation for this year are the following: decrease the strong varieties in wheat blends and favor extensible wheat. Optimize the mixing time, but rather increasing. We can use reducing agent like deactivated yeast to improve dough extensibility, and also a functional flour. The reference is Innocent Sweet Germ 1050. There could be also an interest for functional flour to improve dough hydration. We can use for that Innocent Sweet H1, and we could use enzyme for extensibility and good behavior.
Thank you, Lucille. We are a little bit late, sorry about that, but we can maybe take 1 or 2 questions. We have a question for Claude. You say that some wheat couldn't be used for food, so for what will be the 30% downgraded wheat are going to be used?
So it is mainly due to the specific way. So you know the trade specification for the wheat is 76 kilograms per hectoliter. You have 2 types of discarded wheat. The one which are below 74 and 76, this part we expect to process it into wheat flour, but we should reduce the milling yield. And below 74 kilo per hectoliter, this wheat is supposed to be totally discarded, not suitable for milling purpose. It is not suitable for food purpose, but at least not for the milling purpose. And it will be mostly directed to the animal feeding. So it will be used for the production of the product.
Okay, thank you very much. Just the very last one, and if you have an answer, is do you know the reason for the increase of the consumption rising?
Okay, so the increase of the consumption, we are exiting a very tough time with the COVID pandemic. So of course the people, they are coming back to spend money and to enjoy life and so on. But for the wheat, during the pandemic, all the restaurant and yes, mostly the restaurant was closed. So there was no business for these sectors, and this sector is using a lot of bread, for instance. So especially for the craft bakery, it was a disaster because they lost a lot of sales during the pandemic due to the lockdown for the different restaurant and food store.
Okay, thank you very much, Claude and Lucille. I think we can stop now. And as a reminder, you will receive the presentation, and we stay at your disposal if you have any question regarding the new crop or solution for this new flour. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.